So I sent a reminder, but right now for roll call we have Carol Carey, Chairwoman, Andrea Worthington, and Paul Sebesta, which is not a quorum, which means we won't be able to take action on the minutes again. We're missing Melissa, Amanda, Chris, and Amy because Steve had to resign.
Yeah, so you said he's moving to Vermont, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
His wife got a job there, and he's very mobile, so he just went along with her. But he said that if we needed him, he would help a little bit, and maybe like eventually, if there was like solid tasks, like we could probably hire him like as a consultant if we ever needed to. Oh, here we go.
Oh, who just joined?
Chris.
Oh, great.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, Chris, how come you're not outside?
You're muted.
You're muted. You want to unmute?
Is that little? Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, it's a little warm. What do you think?
A little bit.
It's warm.
You usually stay out there till the mosquitoes get you.
I saw the heat index was like, I don't know, over 100. So
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay, Laura, I'm going to mute so you guys can chat.
Yeah. Okay. So, oh, hey,
What?
Steve. Hi, Steve.
No, I don't see everybody. Oh,
Oh,
there
there
he
he
is.
is.
Steve's last meeting.
Yeah. Oh, he's muted.
Oh, there we go.
There.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Sorry, I've been so out of touch lately.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so
good
Carol,
luck.
I'll just do a quick roll call now for the record, and that way we'll just start from scratch on that. Okay, so Carol Carey, Chairwoman,
Here.
Paul Sebesta,
Here.
Andrea Worthington,
Here.
Chris Zimmerman,
Here.
Steve Signell,
Here.
and Melissa, Amanda, and Amy Hawansky are absent and excused. Go ahead.
Okay. So do you want me to start or?
Yeah, go ahead.
I haven't pulled up. I think the first item is to approve the meeting minutes from both May and June, correct?
Yeah, May 14th and June 11th. Yep.
Okay. Did anyone have any comments?
No, I'm good with them.
Any, Chris or Steve or Paul?
No.
I'm good.
I had, I think, one on the May one. I think it was just a typo, Laura. Let me just find it. I'm not sure. I'm going to be able to find it quickly. Well, it wasn't that important, but I looked at it beforehand and now. Well, can we make a motion to approve with the?
I will make a motion to approve.
Okay, and if I send the one type, it was just a
Just
typo.
email me the typo and we'll fix it. Yep.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. Anyone second it? The motion?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor to approve the meeting minutes from both May and June? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay. I don't have the agenda up, Laura. What's next on the agenda?
So next, sorry, I was scrolling through the minutes.
New business.
Yes. So the big thing that I wanted us to work through tonight was Vincenzo subdivision street tree plan. But before I get into that, I did want to mention really quick, we had a we had a public works and water, sewer, and engineering committee meeting this morning, and they had a kind of lengthy discussion about the installation of the water line on Mohawk Road because their county's not letting, and Carol lives on this road, so she probably knows what I'm going to say already. The county's not letting them put the line underneath the asphalt, and it's a heavily wooded area, and so essentially they're doing everything they can to mitigate the loss of the trees, but they're going to have to take about 6 pretty large, probably silver maples down. I haven't been down the road, but Josh thought that they were silver maples, and I think they're flagged, and there's 6 of them, and it has been.
Yeah, they're flagged.
Yeah, it has been fairly traumatizing to the neighbors. They have called and asked the town not to take the trees down, but there's nowhere else for the water line to go. And anybody who lives on Mohawk also knows that water line has had, like, I think,
Numerous
significant
breaks.
over the last several years that it has to be replaced. It's not like we're gonna fix something that's only 10 years old. This is like it has to be replaced. So what their thoughts were that they will budget money. They have currently like a landscape restitution budget, but the town board wanted to put a little more money there to add trees back. And like we talk about this all the time, and we say it's not gonna be the same as when you take those giant trees down. But so what they were thinking is 2 trees for every tree that they take down. So 12 trees in that area. But they wanted the tree council to work with the owners and the engineering department to get the right species there and to properly locate them. A fair number of them probably won't be able to go back into the right of way because you can't plant the trees right over top of the water main.
No, yeah, they can do that.
So, because, 20, 30 years from now, you might have to be digging the main again. So they're talking about we could work with the owners and get temporary easements and then plant the trees as close as we can to the right of way so that they function as street trees to replace the loss of trees for the project. So I don't have the plan yet, but that came up this morning, and essentially the engineering department was asking for our help on it. And so I said I would bring it up at the meeting tonight.
So what the hell?
So,
what kind of help do they need? I'm sorry.
So the main points they wanted us to help with were coordinating the type of trees and location with the property owner, similar to what we do when we're citing sort of an old street tree.
So Laura, it sounds like you're suggesting we plant trees on private property.
I brought that up. Typically, if we are planting them as street trees on private property, which we have done in the past, we get an easement for them so that we can maintain them in perpetuity.
I don't know that that's ever been done in the past, to my knowledge. I don't know. I don't think it's proper. But when do you suggest it's been done?
The one place that I knew that we were gonna actually have to do it was Upper Union Street because that grant has street trees, and so the engineers have proposed easements for the street trees so that we would be able to maintain them in perpetuity. Because you guys understand, and we had this conversation with Joel Zoin on Campbell Court. If you plant the trees on private property, the town has no ability to tell the people to leave them if for some reason the people want to cut them down. We're not.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
not only that, it's a gift. It's it's not public property. And
Yeah.
Union Street sounds like a very much an exception, and it was a grant, not
Right.
taxpayer dollars.
Well, could we work
How
with
big
them?
are their, excuse me, how
Could we
big are
work
their
with them?
front lawns?
Big. Hi Amy. I think the last time Mohawk are generally speaking pretty large.
So
The ones that are really large are near are in front of a house about maybe 500 to 1,000 feet in from Troy Road, and the house that's really close to the road. So that's probably the most impacted home. There's three large silver maple.
Is there any way we could work with the owner to plant trees, but then they are their trees and the town doesn't take care of them, kind of as a gift for taking down the street trees?
Yeah, that's the wrong word. Gift.
Yeah.
That's the wrong word.
I agree to Paul to some extent. Like when a developer does a subdivision, if they, you know, they put the trees in the right of way, and the town takes them over because they need the land to the town. But they do sometimes
Well,
put.
even the
on
developer
the
can put
property.
trees on the property too. I mean, that they can do, but
And they do, and they have. It's a
Yeah,
little bit strange
we're
for
not
the
talking
town to
about-
do it, though. I mean, but there isn't anywhere else for the
Mm.
trees to go, and the town recognizes the loss in habitat. So you could, you know, if you put them on the other side of the street, like we're trying to
Well,
figure it out.
are there trees that have a shallow root structure that could be planted over the water line?
Well,
Or would not be as
probably.
invasive, like a willow, is the worst one?
But you probably could find some trees maybe that have roots that, would leave a water line alone. But the risk, I think, over a water line is that that maybe not 20 or 30 years from now, but 30 to 40 years from now, that water line may have to
More
be
like the
replaced
winter.
again.
Water lines, you can talk to the engineer, but the new water lines that are coated in concrete and wrapped have lives upward of 100 years. So you're going to be cutting the trees down before you replace the water line.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
That's my engineering input.
So that's a
should talk
thought.
to
We
them.
could look into species that might be a compromise.
yeah, so it sounds like we definitely have to take them down. There's no choice in that matter. So it's whether we somehow work with the owners to plant trees outside of the right of way, right?
Right.
I think it's just a dangerous precedent to set to start planting trees not in public property and not even proper to begin with, but I don't think it's a good idea.
So I definitely hear what you're saying,
I
Paul.
understand what's that? I understand the issue, and I like trees, and I want trees. That's why I'm looking at any other options like shallow roots, maybe red maples, keep to the surface. Do they have a taproot? I don't know. I'm not the root guy, but
Yeah, I feel like any maple has got any maple I've ever seen has kind of a taproot. I noticed that when we were doing the bare root on the maples, they had a stronger thing that was going directly down into the ground than any of the other trees.
So are they really, these neighbors, are they just going to miss the greenery, or are they going to miss the shade, or are they just are angry that their trees are taken from them? Because I mean, maybe we could give them shrubs, which have fairly short, landscaping, as opposed to trees that might
In
invent
the right away.
the waterways.
So Amy, you have feedback for some reason. Can we mute you when you're not speaking? Amy?
I'm sorry?
For whatever reason, the sound on your computer is feedback looping. I can watch it spike when Andrea is speaking. Can you
I will
mute?
try. I'm not on my computer. I'm on my phone. I couldn't access it on the computer. I will do what I can to try to mute that.
Okay.
Actually, if everybody could mute if they're not talking, that'd be good.
What was that? I'm sorry.
If everybody could mute when they're not talking, it'd be very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm hearing good things, and I wanted to bring it up to you early because it does sound like we can help. So I'll get a better plan from the engineering department, and I will pass on our concern with it being on private property and see if there's some kind of flexibility that we can have with, a smaller species that's right on the edge of the right of way, or what we can do to see if we can keep it town owned. And then either send you an email before our next meeting or have a plan that we can work on for our next meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
that sounds
Okay.
good.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think this happens too often, but occasionally if someone knows you're on the tree council and they call you, I also wanted to give you a heads up that those big trees are coming down and people have been calling other people about them. But I'm telling you, the engineering department tried as hard as they could not to have to take any trees down.
Well, that's good, Laura, since I live on Mohawk. So
As another, that's what I brought up. I said, the chairwoman of the tree council lives on Mohawk. But I'm sure you know the problems with the water line as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So back to the agenda. The Vincenzo subdivision street tree plan. We recommended to planning board to require the developer to plant 16 street trees. And he's very amenable to that. And I was trying to get him to do a plan for us that we could review. But he's, I guess, struggling and basically is willing to plant a tree anywhere we want them to plant a tree and is willing to plant whatever we want. And he would prefer that we just give him 16 locations with 16 whatever type of tree we want, and he will execute. So I have it up on the map here. Let me share my screen with you guys. Wondering, I was going to draw some dots on the map for the tonight and kind of show you guys what my thoughts were. But when it comes to 16 trees, it's pretty difficult to do on an aerial. And I thought that we were really successful when we went out a couple Saturdays ago and planted and marked the locations for all of the kind of late spring trees that we planted.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if I could grab a couple of you guys and we could meet out there and mark up a map. And, maybe if there's a couple places where we think we might want to have homeowners input, we could leave a note or, maybe knock on the door from a distance or something. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. I'll help. Whoops. You're muted, Laura.
Whoops.
I don't know what I'm doing. I must have hit the mute button instead of the share screen button. Oh my gosh.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
So there's one is fairly obvious to me, and I can bring up Google Street View for you guys to see this. I mean, this is a fairly large roundabout, and we said before, this could easily take like a very large, beautiful tree. Great. And then this is fairly open. You can see here, this is going to be the entrance to that new subdivision. So I think you could fairly easily maybe just double check with these guys, do like 1, 2, 3. I don't know, there's that tree here, but this is fairly open too. Although, speaking of water line,
all the way smaller, or for some reason, the way the black line is marked.
I can make them smaller.
Oh no! I was wondering, are these the real right of ways? What we see as green past the black lines.
It's an estimate, but it's pretty close. Similar.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can see there's definitely, but this is one of those neighborhoods where I think a lot of the trees that kind of look like street trees are set a little bit farther back and end up being on people's properties.
Yeah.
Because in here, it's fairly wooded, although I actually don't think there's very many street trees. It's kind of like Orchard Park or something, but we probably wouldn't need to focus in here. There's a lot of trees. But then you come back out here and there starts to be less.
Right.
And like these people, well, actually I think everybody kind of adjacent to this parcel is feeling a little bit of the loss of, some of those trees. So anywhere we can put them, I think would help. And developers paying for them. So I don't think there'll be, and he said, pick out what you want. So I think that we should, increase our diversity goals and look at, maybe we could go out while we're doing it and kind of like hand count, maples and oaks and just, see if there's, something that makes sense there. If there aren't any maples and oaks, we could add a couple, but my guess is there's probably a lot. I don't know. We can go out and look.
Do we also have the center of the cul-de-sac turnaround to work with?
This one here?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that is an easy win because automatically that's going to like spruce up the area and help, I think, mitigate with the loss of trees because it's right now it's just grass, and I think the grass has a hard time growing because it's very exposed.
Who's in charge of mowing that grass?
Yeah, highway mows that grass.
Oh, okay, so somebody will take care of the tree then, not hang it up.
Yeah, I will get to that a little bit later, but I brought that up at the highway committee. Let me just see if I can show you guys what that cul-de-sac looks like. I love dropping the little guy. I typed in the wrong one. See? This whole subdivision, I mean, like, those eventually will get bigger, but yeah, we can totally work with this, Amy. And like, if you turn around.
Oh, wow. Well, that's that.
But these are places where, like, I sometimes wonder if they haven't planted trees in their yard, if they're like people who don't want trees. But I would always want a tree. So, I mean, like, my thought is, like, look how many street trees you can fit here. And then here as well, like over here, is very open, although you can see the fire hydrant. So we would have to plant them, I think, behind the fire hydrant so that we're not messing with the water line again. But like, this is what we were looking at. Like, this one's wide open. You could easily fit like 1, 2.
Right.
But also, like, we're trying to mitigate, or, you know, typically the trees go in the right of way for the new lots, but this one is a subdivision behind people's lots, which is really unusual. But I mean, we'd probably, if we can, and we get out there, try and spread the 16 trees out to the best that we can, so that anybody who's kind of impacted by the subdivision, if we can fit a tree somewhere near them, could get a tree if they wanted one.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good.
And Laura, where is the subdivision from that? I mean, is there any buffer trees we can put? Oops.
Sorry.
No, I thought it said I had left the meeting.
No, that's mine.
Is there any buffer trees we can put between the subdivision and the houses?
We did ask for a buffer, and there is a no clearing buffer between the houses and the homes.
Okay.
So,
Laura, just a quick question. What's the best means to determine whether people would want a tree or not? You know, I just, you know, 3 trees and that one person, like, that seems like,
I know.
That would be a lot. That'd be a big change for them.
And I don't want to scare people by us walking around and then walking up to their home. So I was actually thinking about this. I mean, maybe what we could do is get a letter together for all of the properties that abut that subdivision, and then say, you know, we're working on a street tree plan, and we're wondering if you're interested in a street tree in your area. You know, the developer is given an X amount of trees, and please reach out to us if you're interested in a tree. It would take longer to do that, but I would think that anybody who really wants a tree would respond too.
Yeah, that's what I would think. I wonder if you could make the developer do it. Like, make them send out the letter. I mean, don't they have to already send out a letter because of the because if the parcel abuts the development, then they would get a letter notifying them of the development?
The town sends that notification. Colony has the developer send the notification, which may be where you're more familiar with, because I know that's where you work. But they, in the town of Niskayuna, we send the notifications.
Okay.
And the subdivision has been approved, but the planning board approved it with the condition that the tree council approve the location and species type of the 16 street trees for mitigation. So they have already been notified, and they've gone through the process, and generally speaking aren't that happy with the subdivision. And I do think you could make the developer do it, but in this instance, the developer is very hated in that area, and so I don't think that you would get like the response that you would want to get from the letter. I mean, typically, yes, you would push back on the developer. In that instance, though, I think people who want trees aren't going to reach out to him.
Okay.
But I think that if we as a tree council say, you know, we'll work with you, I think we'll get more response. Just a different situation.
Trying to take that responsibility off of you, you know.
Which would be great.
I remember one project we worked on where we had a bunch of flyers, and we when we would put them in their mailboxes or ring the doorbell and hand them to anybody who answered the doorbell, as opposed to a letter. So if they had questions and they would talk to us, some of them, most of the time it was household help, so they weren't speaking to us. That at least says we're here. We can answer questions if somebody has them.
So
And
we
if-
did that for Ray and Cornelius.
Yeah.
We dropped them together. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
I thought it went well. But that was before COVID. I think that
Oh,
mail-
that's true. But putting a piece of paper in their mailbox, would that be a COVID false?
I mean, people just have a variety of levels of comfort. I
Yeah.
think the safest thing to do is to mail with contact information. If you guys think that,
Yeah. It makes it official. It's got a stamp on it.
make it official. And then I guess we could have a timeline in there for getting back to us. And then we could tell the developer that we're working with the homeowners, because that does get us over the hurdle of knowing whether or not people are going to want a tree. 'Cause I agree with you, Chris. You could definitely fit 3 trees on that person's yard, but I don't know how they would feel about it. Some
Right.
people really like their perfectly green grass, and trees, have shade.
I think it also depends in many cases on what type of tree, because when we were in the other developments, people would say, well, what kind is it? And they're familiar with certain types. Maybe they would, what comes to mind quickly might be a crab apple for them or a maple. And if we suggested something else, they might not be familiar with that tree. So
How about
I'm
a
wondering-
shade master locust?
I like those.
Yeah,
wonder-
no raking, filtered sun, keeps your grass, a lot of good qualities.
So how would we present to them? Are we going to kind of come up with, 6 or 7 tree options, call Northern and see if it's even possible to get them this year, and then not commit to exactly to those types, but tell the homeowners, hey, these are the types we're looking at. Which would you prefer?
I think that's a great idea. And put that in the letter. So we could have a letter, and then the back of it could be a color version with, like, if we pick 6 trees with the color picture of the tree and a description next to it, kind of like the Arbor Day Foundation does. And then just be like, we're in the neighborhood. We want to locate these 16 street trees. Is there any of them on this list that you're interested in? Reach out to us and we can work with you.
That's perfect.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea, Amy. Okay, so I think it's fine. That will make the subdivision plan take a little longer, but I think it'll be a little better. And I mean, maybe we don't actually say 16 street trees. Like, maybe we just take a look at that corridor, send out those letters, and see what kind of response we get. And if we have 20 people that want trees, maybe the town can kick in the extra 4 trees, and we can retree that corridor wherever we can. That makes sense to me.
And we can also, if we get 16 people who want 16 trees, we could have extra go into that cul-de-sac as well.
Yeah. Mhm.
Kick in from our fall planting or spring planting.
Yep, that makes sense to me. I think that is good. I like it.
Good.
So I don't want to wait till our next meeting to get that letter out. Linda and I will work on a letter and email it to you guys, and I guess we'll approve it by email so that we can get it in the mail. And maybe have the timeline for the response be a week before our next tree council meeting or something, and then we can kind of look at where the demand is and come up with a tree planting plan.
And how do you want to go about selecting the potential possible trees?
Yeah.
Just letting everyone know, it because of the virus this year, it has been difficult to locate certain plants from certain growers. So perhaps there should be a line in that letter that says, best case scenario, we're going to try our best to get you your first or second or third choice. But because of the virus, some of those choices may be limited.
Yeah, and I feel like people are pretty good about that. They were good about that for Arbor Day. So yes, I think we could put something like that. So I heard Shade Master, and I like that one, and that may be an option for some people who have never had to rake their lawn, because there's clearly some houses in that corridor that have like 0 trees. So do we want to put that one on there?
Yes, that sounds good.
It's a honey locust, right? Thornless honey
And
locust.
maybe, Paul, are you open to some different cultivars? Because we may be able to get honey locust and a different, a cultivar slightly different that might be available.
Yeah, I'm flexible. I'm just throwing it out there. I have one. I know they have a lot of good qualities. I planted them in the past through the committee. They just, I'm not particular.
I think the only thing we ask is that they're thornless because they're a town tree.
Yeah, they're thornless, the ones I've used.
Well, should we suggest some of the ones that we had for Ray and Cornelius? We had a variety of trees there, right?
Yeah, but in this instance, we don't have any overhead power lines, so I don't think. I mean, it's just my opinion.
Okay.
We need to
Yeah.
go with the shorties if we can. If we can create that, overhead corridor that, adds so much property value.
They don't need small trees. They need big.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, because
Yeah,
there's
that's why
power
I
lines down.
suggested the locust is, they're large trees.
But yeah, like we had the sweet gums, which, by the way, I think I said this at the last meeting, but we didn't have anything. If you guys haven't driven down Ray and Cornelius this year, like go over there. It
Oh, I've
looks
seen it.
awesome.
Yeah.
It looks so good.
Yeah.
And all the trees look fine. it's just wonderful. I think that people may be taking care of them. But and those
When
columnar
they
sweet,
flowered, they were beautiful.
they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it's just gonna get better. I just feel like we did such a good service there. Yeah, we had the sweet gums and
We had,
the other big ones.
They were
Incos.
yeah, serviceberry.
serviceberry. But they were small plants.
Yeah, they're kind of serviceberries are smaller.
Mhm. Well, maples are a popular one.
Yes, they always are. If you leave it up to people, they will almost always choose a maple.
We could also have a couple of people meet over there prior to your letter writing and just walk casually and get a sense for what's in the neighborhood, get a sense for what character of tree might work. And that could drive our decision about which trees to put on this suggested list.
Okay,
And-
I think that's a good
and
idea too.
Before we add them to the letter, we should also source them to make sure they're even remotely available this year.
That's true.
So maybe we come up with 10 trees, we call Northern and we say, what's the availability of these? And we kind of whittle that down to 6 that we present to the homeowner.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'm pretty available and would love to be out there. But I don't have to be there, but I'm happy to meet anybody out there at a time that works for them.
I'd be happy to come too. I just need to know exactly where we're meeting because it sounds like we're looking at lots of different roads.
I would be happy to attend as well.
Yeah, so I feel like we should probably just park near the little green circle cul-de-sac thing. We can just park near there. That's
And
one
that's on Antonio? Is that on Antonio?
on Antonia. I typed in Angelina, but it's Antonia. Angelina's the north one, and we're not actually planting there. So where we would potentially plant is the entire length of Antonia really abuts the subdivision, and then from the intersection of Antonia and Row Road up to like the intersection of say Polsinelli Drive and Row Road. 1, 2, 3.
So does it make sense that Laura, Amy, and Andrea meet and like you mentioned and walk at the property and come up with suggestions based on the location?
Yeah, it's about 35 homes. So so what time works for you guys?
All good for me.
I am okay tomorrow being done by 4, and I'm okay the Saturday as well.
I'm okay. Tomorrow probably won't work for me. I have planning board packets. But I could probably do Saturday if nobody cares if I bring my daughter. Or
No,
we can do next week.
I can also do next week, any day, starting at 5:30.
So I could do like a Thursday at 5:30, but there's planning board, town board, zoning board next week in the evenings.
what Saturday maybe? Yes or no?
Yes, I'm okay then.
Okay, so you want to meet out there Saturday? Maybe 9 or 10 a.m.
9 a.m.'s fine, whatever.
9 is fine.
Okay, 9's the best for me. On the end of Antonia.
Mhm.
Okay, I think that'll be quick. We'll just get a sense of the neighborhood, and then we can come up with a list of trees, and then Linda and I can work on that letter.
And people might be out and about, and we'd actually be able to talk to them a little bit about what's
So the last time we cited trees was a Saturday, and it worked pretty good, I thought, for me. I might be able to get somebody to watch my daughter. I'll ask. She's not always a super helper. She tries. Okay. Next agenda item is, let me give it our packet here. Planning updates. So I did talk to the highway committee about, we had identified that we would like to do a fall project at Blatnick Park to upgrade the Blatnick Park sign. They did generally seem to be okay with that. We've talked about it before. So I think that we should keep that one in mind and start thinking about how we can plan it. But I'd say for now we can focus on Vincenzo. But I think the fall project with the Blatnick sign will work. And then the other thing that I wanted to try and complete in the fall, which is sort of tied into the Blatnick sign, is the elm trees that are supposed to be delivered. And I will reach out to them to see on a timeline for delivery. And, we've talked generally on where we want to site them and everything, but I think it all ties together. So,
Laura.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. They're scheduled for late September, early October, whenever they go dormant. It's weather dependent. I just talked to them recently.
Right.
Then we have 20 coming. The Liberty Elm.
Yeah, so I think that's perfect. We should, when we get a better sense, let's put that as our time frame to do our fall project, is late September, early October. And then when we get a better sense of their delivery date, we can kind of create a work day around the highway planting elms and us working on the sign, I think.
What, Laura? Are they all going into Blatnick, the elms? Where are they going?
Yeah, so there's a hill that's actually hard for them to mow and has no shade right now. That's like behind the here, I'll show you. Pond. And I think we could stagger them there and really kind of like a feature, which will be beautiful. We've got the 20 coming in the fall, but then, like Paul, I think we still have even more coming in 2022, right? At least another 20? Did you leave, Paul?
I think he's on mute.
Okay, I think we do have more trees coming.
Laura, I had a quick question. I saw that the tree planting committee for the spring had identified a lot of trees that for the highway department to plant. Did those all get planted?
Yes, they all got planted. We planted and more. The highway department fulfilled a fair number of their street tree requests this spring. It was one of the only things they could do during COVID because there wasn't really any interaction with the public and nurseries were still open and stuff like that. So, they planted 40 trees and we had, I think, maybe 16 or 18 that we had ordered in the fall, and those all got planted. I did bring this up at a highway committee. I think the majority of them are doing okay. They started to get very dry during this last month.
Yeah.
And, I think the hackberries, I went and checked on them. I put some mulch around the bottom of them. they look like they were going to make it, but the Dawn redwoods died. And so I am going to reach out to Highway when I can and see about a replacement for them, because so we put the hackberries in here and they look gorgeous. And we put the Dawn redwoods here because this building's now gone. And this is going to be kind of like a parking lot, and we're going to work on this when it gets farther along, and the engineering department is really excited to work with us. They talk to me about the tree council all the time, but there's a plan to put, they're going to make this like a road and put a curb with an island, and they just want to fill it with trees. They're not ready yet. They got a lot of work to do, and there's a budget, but they want to just basically take this corridor and make it tree lined here. And so we could put the 3 redwood trees right in here so that they would buffer the parking lot to the road, and you'd also be able to see the redwoods from the road. And we're really excited about it, but I think it just got too hot for them, and they were little, and they died. So I do want to see if we can put them back in the same spot. If we can, I'm going to talk to them about it and see what we can do there. But all the other ones, to my knowledge, has survived. The red ones, they baked.
Okay, so we have a list of all that, right, Laura? So we know what's been planted, so we can take credit for that in our Tree City applications.
Mm-hmm. And I think I told you the majority of street trees, I don't know if it was because of COVID or because they're listening to us. I'm going to say it's because they're listening to us. The street trees they planted this year were black gums and tubelos.
Great.
Yeah. So I thought that was awesome.
That's nice to get that diversity. Also, over in River Road Park behind Mario's, last year we had planted 3 river birch, Shiloh Splash, and one of them is dead. I believe, did we get those from Fadigan's?
Yes, we did. We got those from Fadigan.
If I'm correct in saying that we did that last year, that one would be covered under the guarantee, and we could potentially get that replaced.
Okay, I will work on that one. I didn't know that one had gone. I'm surprised.
Double check me, because I just drove by. I didn't go all the way up to it yet, but I've been watching it, and it has not been looking good.
Do you think it just wasn't wet enough?
Well, what is our town protocol after we install street trees?
No, we don't water them. So this is what I brought up, and I mean, we've talked about it before, and it's always a little bit of a rub, but CAC is working really hard on a low mow initiative, and that has some pushback from the highway department as well because it's new, maybe, but we understand that they get competing interests because CAC doesn't want to mow 500 acres of lawn. That's how much we mow, and but if the highway department doesn't do it, people call up the highway department and say that they're lazy and that they're not mowing. So and there's a lot of people in Niskuna that like 500 acres of lawn mowed. So what we were thinking is, so that the highway department isn't caught in this competing interest thing, is that we put up signs and we do this huge community outreach about longer grass and how it's better for biodiversity and how we're losing bugs, by the truckload. And it's going to make a big difference if people in Niskuna keep their lawns longer. And if we reserve some areas for biodiversity through grass, like in Blatnick Park and in other places. So that's their initiative. But to balance, if you're saying highway department, you don't need to mow anymore, we don't want to be threatening jobs in an economy when people are like, well, if we're not spending the money on mowing, then do we need all these people? But there's so much more that they could do. If maybe we can just redirect, if they're not mowing,
let's be watering.
Let's water,
Yeah.
Which would be awesome. So let's retrofit, a pickup truck with a giant water tank and hose, and one day a week, rather than a 3-man crew watering, an area that they would normally, or mowing an area that they would normally mow, go around and water a bunch of trees that we just planted. So I think it's a good idea. It's probably going to take a little bit of a while, but I feel like if we can do that balance where we're not necessarily taking away work, but we're redirecting and we're protecting and maintaining these things that we spend money on. And also, we've said this before, we can't get the tree planting grant without a watering system. They will not award you money for trees if you don't water them. And we don't water them right now. So there's a lot of reasons for us to try and figure out a nice watering system. If anybody knows one, that'd be great because I'm actually meeting with the highway department and the Rosemary project with not that.
Excuse me, there must be some kind of like chart of, all right, we've had XYZ amount of rain and it's going to take so much time for that to dry out, in the sense of that's got to be out there somewhere, where then they don't have to constantly be going around watering. If they've got other jobs to do, they can do it based on, well, we just had 4 weeks of no rain or 2 weeks of no rain and we need to go out and take care of these plants. You know, as opposed to I gotta go out and this is my day to water everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then it's raining on that day and they're watering.
Yeah, I mean,
there's got to be some flexibility in there, but just having a system that would allow it to be easy for them to water, like, you know, a tank and a fill up system and a
right.
yeah. I mean, I think it has to be something small so that it can get on the bike path, you know, and water in areas that, you know.
I know Saratoga has that. When I lived in Saratoga, they had a tank truck and they have all those plants in the town, and they had a watering program or system.
Yeah.
And the city of Schenectady did as well when working with the group Re-Tree Schenectady, because they would also go around and water all the trees that they helped plant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's critical. I mean, Amy and I think Andrea or whoever knows, like, you know, I mean, when we were citing the plants on Lexington, we were trying to get homeowners to take them over and water them because they need the water. So, and we don't want to be planting things that don't get the maintenance. So that is the idea. Hopefully we can have two good things going at once, and it would be less mowing and more watering.
Yeah.
This is Chris, Laura. Just quickly, you know, I'm fully in support of the less mowing. I would just suggest that in some ways coming up with a plan that you know, you determine ahead of time what areas you're going to mow and not mow. And so then when you do get those complaints, you can kind of point to the plan that kind of lays out the justifications for why and where, because I think there's probably a lot of infrastructure and factors to kind of take a look at. Maybe you've already got the plan.
No, we don't. So that was essentially what we talked about, and I think it is really important. So we were going to take a look at map and designate some areas. And so it wouldn't be like we weren't mowing everything or we were rotating where we weren't mowing. We would designate, you know, specific areas that hopefully offered the most to habitat. And then we would do something like, I don't think we should use the word lazy because it's not lazy, but you could do like less lawn mowing alert with it be. And then like the CIC is talking, you know, we can do the QR code and have it point to places. But yeah, I think the first step is to kind of map out where the large sections of mowing is taking place, and if there's places that see, like, be proud this one was maintained for pollinator habitat, and that way people who come up to it, they're like, why isn't the town mowing their parks? If we put a lot of these signs around, they'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I like that one because it's a positive message as opposed to
I don't like this is not lazy. You're not being lazy.
Right.
You're actively pursuing biodiversity, which is really important. So, and these are some of the here's like, but this one isn't as a no-mow zone. So that one has obviously the same information, but this one I think is a little more user-friendly. U.S. Forest Service. I don't really know what they're doing.
That's good. Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Yeah, I think that's really important, Chris, is to make sure that it's targeted and everybody's on board with the areas that, and it would probably be small at first. Like, it's going to take a little while to scale up.
But there's a lot of homeowners. It would be great to know that it's allowed to leave your lawn unmowed for a bit in Niskayuna. You know,
that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, it's pretty controversial.
I noticed the GE Research Center really let their lawn, didn't mow it nearly as much this year. They left large tracts of land unmowed.
Gorgeous. Yeah, and you can see it from River Road. Yeah, we talked about that. Like, geez, demonstrating exactly how it can work. And it looks good. It's like a golden field right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we raised our lawnmower blades up this year just to make it, because it was so dry too. It's like it made more shade for the less water falling out.
Yeah, I've set my lawnmower to the highest setting, and that's what it's going to be.
Okay, so Laura, what was the final one for the?
Final one was just a request from the public, and I'm just putting this bug in your ear. I know we have a lot to do, and we probably just need to focus on one thing at a time. But we did have a request from the public to, again, look at our code. A large tree was taken down in a neighborhood that didn't have a lot of large trees, and the homeowner was frustrated that there wasn't anything the town could do to stop that. And in some ways, there probably may never be something that the town can do to stop that. But they requested that we relook at our code and see if, you know, we can either incentivize maintaining the largest trees in our community, which we've talked about before, or just make it a little harder. And I mean, it is always a balance of property rights, and you have to be really careful because all of the powers that the town of Niskayuna has come from a police power. So you can't stretch it so far. It only goes so far, the power that you have to regulate some of these things. But even if you do like, even if we do like what we talked about, where we go around and try and do an inventory of the largest trees and try and recognize those trees for people and create that sense of value, so that if there is that one super large oak, you know, on a cul-de-sac and somebody's thinking about taking it down, maybe we can get them to pause. I don't know.
Interesting.
Mhm.
So I know we talk about that. I just think that, you know, when we get there, and maybe we can put that as a goal in our street tree master plan, which also still needs work. But those are all the things that I think are good goals for us, and we should keep thinking about. And we did get a specific request for it, so I told them I would tell you.
Well, we could take advantage of things like, you know, Niska Day and other Arbor Day and stuff like that to educate people about that. And, you know, that obviously people come to our table or come to an event, they care about trees, you know.
Small victory, we got our magnets. So if we're ever allowed to do big public gatherings and hand out goodies, we have beautiful, beautiful tree council magnets.
Nice.
With our wonderful website on there. And Steve, maybe like if you think this is probably your last meeting, like maybe we should just, I saw that you just emailed me a bunch of shape files, which is really helpful. But if you had any other thoughts about like maintaining the website or any like things that we should make sure we do when you go.
Yeah, that's my concern, is the website. Well,
I mean, I'm happy to continue helping, you know, if you guys run into trouble or whatever.
Yeah, you said your email is going to stay the same, right?
Yeah, Steve, yeah, it'll be the same, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, the website, you know, I mean, if someone, you know, there's probably YouTube videos or little lessons on how to run a WordPress website. I mean, it's a very common way to run websites. So if you run into trouble, you can just Google, you know, WordPress, how do I do this? WordPress, how do I do that? You know?
We're looking at you, Linda.
So, yeah, and so I mean, if there's specific questions or you can't figure out if there's something, I'd be happy to help out.
Great.
And the shape files that I just sent, most people probably won't really want to look at that, but I know at least Chris and Laura might be interested, and anyone else that does GIS might be interested in that.
Yeah, probably. I mean, we'll take a look at it. That can probably help with our master plan data, and I can share it with the Weston and Sampson guys too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for that.
So it's got like the, you know, the percent tree canopy broken down by block and neighborhood and census or parcel and street right away. And then there's the streets layer that's in there. I digitized. There's a column in there that designates whether it's a bike trail or not.
Oh, nice.
So
Cool.
the bike trails are kind of included in there, in the streets layer. And so, yeah, I can't remember what else is in there, but obviously if you have questions about that, let me know.
Steve, you also created a series of kind of already, maps like PDFs. Did you already send those to Laura as well? I'm seeing Laura nodding her head yes. So you have all those.
I do have those.
Yeah, great. Super.
I'd be happy to crank out some more of those. But Chris, so one of the files that's in there is called Old Niskey Mohawk Trees or something.
Right.
That's basically all the trees that we inventoried.
Okay.
So, you could export that from, you bring it into ArcMap or whatever and export it as a CSV and muck around with it however you want.
Me, I'm an old fart, so I'm still using ArcGIS. I'm not hip enough to use.
I'm not either.
Well, there's a QGIS file. There's a QGIS project file in there that has everything symbolized very nicely. So if you download the latest QGIS, you can at least open it up and look at it, and
that's cool.
And see how it's all. I could share my screen real quick and show people if they want.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to do that?
Yeah, maybe Laura, within the agenda, can we just now kind of have this be our street tree master plan section?
Yeah.
Or that's Carol, I should be asking you. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. And while Steve's pulling that up, I just want to thank Steve for being a key member of the Tree Council. He's really moved us forward into the technology age in so many different areas. So Steve, we're really going to miss you. And thanks for being on the council and all your good ideas and all your actions that you've taken here.
Oh, well, thank you.
Woo, Steve!
Well, it's been fun. It's been fun. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm sorry to be leaving. And like I said, I'll be happy to keep helping out because I'm, pretty invested in the whole idea. So, let me know.
I heard they don't have very many trees up in Vermont either.
No, I know. It's not going to be a tree council. It's going to be an asphalt committee. I'll have to poke around and see if they have a tree council up there I can get involved with. But
whereabouts in Vermont are you going, Steve?
Colchester, which is just north of Burlington.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So pretty far north. Yeah.
Pretty far north. Yeah. About 3 hours from here, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, what else was I going to say? Oh, I did want to mention that Jenny Lipman is interested in joining the council. I think she'd be a really great addition if you don't have anyone to replace me.
Yeah, she reached out this morning and I wrote it down. I'm going to bring it up at my Economic Development Committee meeting tomorrow and see if I can get her on for the end of this month. So it may just, we may be able to sort of seamlessly, not that you could ever be swapped out, but we may be able to swap.
Right, I think she'd be a good, she's got degrees in environmental, science, and she's really into the trees and especially I know she's really into the edible. Anything that you can eat off of, she's way into. Mulberries and pears and apples and all that stuff. So I think she'd be a good replacement for me. Let's see. Let me get to the Zoom here so I can share my screen somehow. Or do you have to make me the presenter?
No, you should be okay. Hit your present now button. It's down in the lower right.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then do your entire screen and then just click which screen you want to share.
Okay, that one. Okay.
There you go.
All right. So this is let's see. These are the neighborhoods. So you have a shapefile of that, and these are colored by
tree canopy,
percent tree canopy, but there's a lot of other stuff in there too. I'm just going to label it real quick with the name. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Sorry, I don't want to waste too much time here, but the name, there we go. All right, so I digitized those from the map you had.
yeah.
So
just to clarify, Steve, this is all based on the National Land Cover data set, as opposed to, I know you did some other.
Well, yeah, but it's not the National Land Cover data set, it's the tree canopy data set that they produce, which looks like this.
Yep, got it. Yep.
So it's more high resolution.
Right.
Yeah, it's a better data set for this, I think. But anyway, so that's in there too. But so that's the neighborhoods, and then by block. Okay. And then the parcels. And you can kind of drill down and look at the some of this is a little bit, and for a tiny parcel, it might not be super accurate just because of the way that I don't know, parcels might be laid out. And then this is the one that I showed you guys, I think that took a 30-foot buffer around the streets and then intersected it. So these are the red streets are the ones that really don't have many trees. And you can see,
And,
in certain neighborhoods, it's really pretty sparse.
I think this panel here is just very important to us because it will help us in future years to be able to say, hey, where's there someplace like Ray and Cornelius that's just devastated and there aren't any trees? It will be easy for us to come here to select perhaps future projects for planting.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we fixed that red line. You're showing it. It was totally red. Look at that. That is it right there. That's not going to be.
And it'll probably when you get an updated when they release another update of the canopy layer, they can be run through again. Chris probably could figure it out or something. But I'm just this is just this actually has a lot of information in it in terms of like the street name, various things in there. But and then is there anything else? Oh, the streets and then the bike trails are these sort of blue dotted lines. And then I also digitized sidewalks. So just for giggles. There's probably some missing in there, but you could always go in and edit some. Like there's 2 blocks of sidewalk on Rosendale. So anyway, that's basically the data, I think. Oh, and the old Niski Mohawk trees. Let me get rid of these. So these are I colored them by genus. So these are the ones that have no street trees.
So just to clarify, Steve, that you did send like a project file to Laura for QGIS. So if we had all this information, we could just open up this project.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thanks.
And it's all right in that folder. And of course, you could bring it into ArcGIS too.
Oh, okay.
But you wouldn't have all the symbology and all that stuff.
Oh, I see.
And the labeling and everything. So you'd have to kind of do that yourself.
Yeah, it's
anyway.
Yeah.
There's probably some plug-in.
Because you can direct export this from Fulcrum really at any given moment, but it won't have the labels and all the layers that you've made, right?
Well, the only thing that's in Fulcrum is our tree inventory. None of this other stuff.
Oh yeah, none of the other stuff. Yeah, because you did that analysis with your class, right? Yeah.
Well, no, I just did it on my own. But
you didn't.
But yeah, but there's nothing really in Fulcrum that we need necessarily. I mean, you guys can still log in there and stuff, but this is basically this shapefile is basically everything that that was in there that's of use. I mean, it doesn't have all the photographs and all that stuff, but all there's all that stuff about the growth and the tree condition and all that stuff's in here. But so I didn't include the stuff from Fulcrum, but you can always you have the login, so you could always download it and download all the photos if you need to. But I mean, I'm not really sure how much use it is, or given the fact that you're hopefully going to get a grant and get a real inventory done. I think it served its purpose in terms of, we did these 2 neighborhoods and it informed a lot of, thought process, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I didn't include the whole inventory because.
I completely agree with you. And we talked about that when we were meeting with Dan Biggs. Like these are our kind of case studies and hopefully give us the leverage to do the whole town. But we probably don't want to continue on with interns because there are just some problems with that data.
Exactly, yeah. And like the black dots here are places that we never inventoried. So the blue ones are ones that don't have street trees and yada, yada, yada. So anyway, you guys can peruse that. I don't want to take up any more time with that. But that's basically the rundown of that.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it is.
But I guess I'll just say that, this is great work, Steve, and that too, unfortunately, if I was more organized, we'd already be pretty far along on pulling this section of the street tree master plan together. But I just have not been able to kind of organize a subcommittee meeting. And so there still needs to be quite a bit of work to done. So unfortunately, while Steve has already done quite a bit of work, we're going to have to figure out how to organize this information after his departure. But it looks like it's pretty well organized, so that's great.
Yeah, and I also, I'd be happy to consult with the town as well if you want me to do that, because I do have a consulting company. I mean, I'm happy to help out on minor stuff, but if you wanted to do a major thing and you had a little money to throw my way, I could certainly do, however much work you wanted. So.
Yeah, that's great. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So Chris and Steve, was that kind of the update for your subcommittee?
Unless Laura has anything what's the status that the contractor continue to,
He's he's really happy to jump on it at a moment's notice. He calls me about it fairly regularly. But I just need to do some of the things that we talked about at the meeting, and then maybe just meet with you and Andrea one more time and get all the stuff to him. I do think it's all doable. It's just a matter of sitting down and getting it done.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. A quick public outreach. We really haven't done much since Arbor Day. So probably our next thing, if we don't do a public outreach, is working on the Tree City application in the fall for December. And I think we just have to play it by ear as what we can do for a public outreach. And also, I think the next thing is we do have the website, but I don't think we've ever really publicized it. So publicizing our website and keeping it more updated.
Yeah, Carol, maybe, since we couldn't do a NISCA Day and our Arbor Day, we handed out some materials on Arbor Day. But that was really more just getting people to celebrate trees, which I think did. But maybe we could just plan a quick email blast in the fall sometime, just as a, hey, did you know, fun fact about tree.
Sure.
And you could do, or maybe you could do a series of 3. And it could just be very quick, just fun emails to the town saying, do you have this tree growing in your yard? Do you know that, the Native Americans used to use this tree for, carving their canoes out of or something, just something really interesting,
Sure.
and then just be like, if you love trees, go to our website or something. It still counts as public outreach, and it could be quick and simple and just a fun little thing with a picture of a tree that's beautiful.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. So, and I know at one time we had talked about, doing one of those big tree hunts, so people could identify trees in their yard. So again, we just haven't pulled our subcommittee together in a while. So,
but yeah, so instead of a fun fact, it could be just got a big tree in your neighborhood, send it to us and we'll investigate it. And maybe we could rank the top 10 trees, and we could do all of that, without ever even interacting with anybody.
Right.
I'm sad, but
No,
you have to be creative, in these times. So, so that's it for public outreach, and so the final one is tree planting.
Go ahead.
The last thing that we had done was when we went and cited the trees for that last planting. And I guess the next thing we're doing is what we just signed up for on Saturday. But I would like to know if there's any more information about what we can do with the sign for Blatnick Park. Did Highway Department, did they give us any realm of, what our budget could be for that? Or if we design it and they would plant it, or would we be planting it? Just some parameters so that we can start to think about what we want to do there.
yeah, so we talked about it at Highway Committee, and they were like, yeah, you want to take the juniper trees down, right? And I said, actually, no. I think we looked at them, and I think that they are okay. What we want to do is move the sign forward and then do some new landscaping around the sign. And they were fine with that. So I think we did talk a little bit about budget. We spent a lot of the replacement budget this spring just because they were able to get so far through the list. Like they were able to honor all of the final 2018 and 2019 requests. And I think most of the well, I don't know that they had that many 2020, but they got through a lot of the requests. And then, but we do have a miscellaneous budget that Paul has, I think, been very vigilant about protecting. We typically don't spend that until towards the end of the year because they can use it for cleaning and stuff. But that, you know, there is still some money in there, and you know, there may be a tree or two that we have to crane. Carol knows this probably, but there's some really large ash trees at our Aqueduct Park, and they have really started to show signs of the emerald ash borers, and they're you know, they're basically on that hill between the access road to the parking lot to that linear park and the dock. And so I'm not 100% sure how they're going to get them down. Those may end up needing to be craned. So like we would have to accomplish that kind of work before we know the full scope of our budget. But I'm hopeful that there would definitely be, you know, like a similar type of budget to what we've had to work with in the fall before, even with all the plantings we did in the spring. And that would be based on if there's miscellaneous money that could be moved over.
And Laura, those trees that aren't included in the improvement plan that they're doing at Aqueduct right now, taking those trees down.
Yeah, it was work to be done by the town. What were you going to say, Paul?
I was going to say I was trying to build that miscellaneous lineup in anticipation of the old Niskuna silver maples that we are unable to take down and, you know, need to hire contractors. So maples, ash, and if we don't need it, purchase of trees.
Yeah.
Because I'd say in 5 to 10 years, we're going to need to double and triple that amount, if not more.
And potentially with some of the big ash trees that are in the right of way as well. Some of that
Same
yeah, same thing. So, but you know, we don't know where that money's going to go until sort of late, but you typically don't need to crane anything by September or October, typically, unless we get like an ice storm or something when the leaves are all on the trees. But, so that would be when we really know. But so if we need to do a lot of craning, the budget would be smaller because we spent so much this spring. But, you know, if we're lucky, I think that we would have a similar budget to what we had last fall.
Okay. Sounds good.
And so the nice thing about that is, you guys know this, being a designated tree city requires that you spend a certain dollar amount per capita. And we regularly use that tree budget, you know, in our application for the tree city to say that we spent that money. So it's in a rare instance where we're kind of obligated to spend that money because we're certifying to, you know, Tree City USA that that's the money that we're spending per capita on trees. So that is, I think, something that we have going for us when it's getting towards the end of the year and there's a little bit left. Sometimes, you know, you might be like, well, but in this case, I think that we have a fair reason and responsibility to try and get that spent.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
And Laura, separately with the Climate Smart Task Force, there was one item in which planting shade structures on public properties was something we were supposed to be tracking. So this kind of is a dual. By doing that, we're also meeting some of the requirements for the Climate Smart bronze level that we're trying to get to.
Oh yeah, and that's just a great update. They did pass that shade structures policy, and it's great, and it's really awesome. And it's essentially a policy that the town board is supporting planting more trees in our park, and providing shade, and helping mitigate, you know, effects of heat on people who are using our parks.
So Laura, on that shade structure policy, I was kind of disappointed. I think you left that whenever feasible, we'll use native trees, which means to me, it's always feasible to use native trees, and we're not going to use anything other than native trees, which I'm kind of disappointed about. Not that I'm big on invasive species, but I don't see the necessity to restrict to native trees only. Or am I wrong?
I know we had that conversation, but I don't actually remember reading that. It may have gotten removed.
I don't think it did get removed, but
don't-
I just don't understand. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't remember reading that in the final version, but if you read it carefully, it probably is still there. I read things quickly.
So what's the point of restricting anything other than native? I mean, whenever feasible, when will it not be feasible to plant a native tree?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know, maybe feasible is the wrong word. I think the intention.
Well, that's the word that's in there. That's the word that's in the policy.
But you do want to try and do native if you can. It's much better for
But
the
the policy requires native only. I mean, it's that restrictive. That's the way you've written it.
Well, I mean, our complete streets policy also says that every single project that the town's supposed to do, they're supposed to actually weigh in front of the town board whether or not they can implement complete streets. And, you know, I think that that's the high level threshold of the goal in the policy. But, you know, implementation, I think, you know, falls to the infantry and,
Well,
you know.
it's not about having shade or trees. It's about restricting all but native trees.
So sorry, I mean, I understand the concern, I guess, with the word, but I think that the policy is strong, and I don't think that that would necessarily be a hurdle to planting what tree made the most sense, like right tree, right place. I think that's probably going to be the overarching kind of theme. I mean, the tree council is going to be the one that's probably going to review the plantings in the parks and stuff like that. So I think the policy is strong and it's overall a win. And if it needs to be tweaked a little in the future, we absolutely can do that.
You know, I'm just pointing it out because I think it does. I just think whenever feasible, it's always feasible to plant a native tree. I don't know when it wouldn't be. So it really limits us to only native trees. And I'm not opposed to native trees, but I'm not opposed to non-native trees either. But
Yeah,
anyway, that's
I don't see it in the final one. I'm just looking quickly.
I don't remember.
I tried to look. I didn't have great access, so I'm just questioning whether it's in there or not. So enough said.
Yeah.
Okay,
Move
I'll
on.
double check on it.
In the final one that I was just looking at, I didn't see it.
It's way at the end. It's way at the end.
Okay.
Anyway, I said my piece.
Yeah. So do we have anything else that we need to cover?
I have one suggestion. I've brought it up a few times, but I think it's an area that's not really under our jurisdiction. Laura, if you could correct me, I think you said before it was county. So if you're going on Route 7 west towards Schenectady, you get to that kind of conglomeration of triangles, right? And then you can take a right onto Rosendale, you can take a right onto Balltown. And in that area, there's some birch. And I've been watching them for several years, and they've been flagging at the top, which is an indication of bronze birch borer. And yesterday I noticed that one of the cluster of trees is now totally dead, and the other two are still flagging more. So eventually those would have to be removed and we would have to put something else there. But Laura, am I correct in saying that we don't do that section, right? That's county or?
I was gonna double check, but I believe we actually do that section. It's not owned by us, but I believe when they redid that intersection, it's state. And the state typically turns that kind of green space over to the town. They don't maintain it. For instance, we also maintain the traffic circle at Rexford, where there are two dead crab apples, or at least 1.5. So I will follow up on that. I noticed the same because you have pointed that out to me before, and I was at that intersection the other day and I noticed the dead ones. And I was like, oh, Amy's been telling me about that and now they're dead. I think that's us, but I will double check.
Because if it is, and we have to use our money.
Maintain that.
Oh, we do. Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Yes.
So that could be added into our area for where if we have to use our monies by the end of the year to maintain Tree City USA status, that could be another possible area that we know that's pending that we could be thinking about what types of trees would work there, and we can be on the alert for looking for those types of trees.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And then a similar situation is at the intersection over by the CVS where Van Antwerp comes into Balltown. At that triangle where there's a fountain, those 3 weeping cherries have been hurting for a while. And I think that needs to be on our future list of how we're going to handle that.
Yeah, I
Yeah, we
guess-
talked about maybe pruning those at some point, but
I
yeah.
noticed that. So, Laura, just a quick question. So, in regards to trees that have died or declining, right now the primary mechanism for reporting those is just general residents kind of reporting. I guess so because I did notice you mentioned emerald ash borer. So on the corner of Regent and I forget what the cross street is, but there's actually 2 street trees that are almost dead that are ash. And so I assume within the next probably year, all the ash within their town right-of-ways will be dead. So just kind of adding to this list. So I'm wondering, is there other mechanisms, or should we just start a spreadsheet or something like that? Or do you have one, or is the highway department of trees that need to be, evaluated or removed?
The highway department has told me before that they don't want us to wait. If we know that there's a dead tree, it's potentially a hazard tree, and they would just like for it to be reported to them, and then they will get to it as quickly as possible. So they take the dead trees pretty seriously. I think that, some people feel like our building inspectors don't enforce code enough, but I mean, generally, like they're super busy and they're driving from place to place. Not necessarily looking for code violations on the way. And that may be true of the highway department as well. So if we point out to them that there's a dead tree, they will try to take it down as soon as they can. So I think that I don't think we should keep a running list of things that should be taken down. If we know of them, I think that we probably should send an email and say, these are the ones that we know of, and they will typically take them down when they can.
Okay.
So if you just want to find that cross street and email it to me, I'll send it over to Patty, and then she puts that on their list of when they can take them.
Right.
As long as we're sure that it needs to go, that's the time that we email them. If there's a chance that it's alive, then. But the ash trees are definitely dying over. I know Regent and Lexington, we already took some ash trees down, and it's probably close by to that because there's ash trees on private property that are also suffering very badly over there.
Yep. Okay, thanks.
Okay. I think that's it for what we had to cover. Anything else that people can think of? Otherwise, I think we should make a motion to adjourn. Somebody want to make a motion?
I will, Amy.
Okay.
I'll second them.
Okay.
Okay.
So all in favor of adjourning? Okay. Well, thanks again, everyone. Have a good summer. Thank you again, Steve, for being part of our council for last few
It
years.
was my pleasure.
Okay.
Thanks,
Everybody
everybody.
enjoy your summer.
Meeting. Really nice.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate all that you all do. You're a great council.
Be well. Stay safe.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.